Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was the biggest thing he had ever seen. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions, with ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its ports. After 30 years of trying to join the galactic community, humanity had finally been invited to meet the Galactic Council. "It's incredible," whispered Dr. Choi Hieran from her position at the science station. She had spent her whole life studying alien species from the few samples Earth had managed to collect over the decades. Now she was about to meet them face to face. Ambassador Park Gina adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. She had been chosen to represent all of humanity in these talks. The weight of 8 billion people rested on her shoulders. "Remember, we're here as guests. We follow their rules and protocols. Humanity's future depends on making a good impression." Colonel Kim Tae-won nodded but kept his hand near his sidearm. As the military advisor for this mission, he trusted nothing about this situation. Something feels wrong about this whole invitation. Why now? Why after all these years of ignoring our messages? The Defiance moved slowly through the docking. Procedures. Alien traffic controllers guided them to a small docking bay far from the main areas of the station. Through the windows, they could see massive warships from the 3 main species that controlled the Galactic Council. The ships were beautiful, but clearly designed for war. Lee Minho had studied everything Earth's intelligence services knew about these species. The Velthari were tall, proud beings who claimed to be the oldest spacefaring race in the galaxy. They controlled the largest territory and had the most advanced weapons. The Zephyrians were smaller but incredibly smart, handling most of the Council's technology and communications. The third group, the Kethmori, were warriors who served as the Council's military arm. As the ship docked, Ambassador Park gathered her team. "Dr. Choi, I need you to observe everything. Take notes on their technology, their behavior, anything that might help us understand them better. Colonel Kim, stay alert, but don't do anything that could be seen as threatening. Captain Lee, keep the ship ready. I don't know how long these talks will take." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 aliens waited on the other side, each representing one of the Council species. The Velthari delegate was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. The Zephyrian looked almost human, but with silver skin and no hair. The Kethmori was massive, covered in thick scales with 4 arms and sharp teeth. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said the Velthari in perfect English. "I am Speaker Velnix. We have been waiting for humanity to mature enough for this meeting." The words stung, but Ambassador Park kept her face calm. "Thank you for finally accepting our request to join the galactic community. We're honored to be here." The aliens led them through the station's corridors. Dr. Choi's eyes went wide at the technology around them. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted and changed as they walked. Lights followed their movement, and the air itself felt different, charged with energy. They passed viewing windows that showed the vast space around the station. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation, their lights creating beautiful patterns against the stars. But Colonel Kim noticed something else. Many of those ships had their weapons powered up and pointed toward the area where human space was located. The council chamber was enormous. Thousands of beings from different worlds sat in curved rows that reached up to the ceiling. At the center, 3 massive thrones held the leaders of the Galactic Council. The air buzzed with translation devices as dozens of languages were converted into forms each species could understand. Council Prime Veltar Nexus rose from the central throne. He was the largest Velthari any of the humans had ever seen, with elaborate markings on his skin that showed his high rank. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the chamber without any visible amplification. "Humans of Earth, you have asked to join our ancient community. For over 50,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained peace between the stars. We have developed the most civilized form of conflict resolution in the galaxy. Ambassador. Park stepped forward. We're grateful for this opportunity. Humanity has much to offer the galactic community. Our scientists, our artists, our explorers are all eager to learn from and contribute to this great civilization. A sound that might have been laughter came from the Kethmori throne. War leader Keth Dar spoke in a voice like grinding stones. Contribute? You are children playing with fire. Your species has barely learned to leave your own star system. The Zephyrian Prime speaker, Zilmoth, activated a holographic display that showed Earth and the surrounding solar system. Red markers indicated human colonies and space stations. Your expansion has been noted. 63 worlds, 47 space stations, 12 asteroid mining operations. Impressive for such a young species. Dr. Choi felt a chill. The detail in the display was incredible. They knew exactly where every human installation was located. The aliens had been watching Earth for much longer than anyone had realized. Veltar Nexus continued his speech. The Galactic Council offers humanity probationary membership. You will be granted access to certain technologies and trade routes. In return, Earth will provide resources and soldiers for our peacekeeping operations. What kind of peacekeeping? Operations? Asked Colonel Kim, unable to stay silent. Civilized warfare, explained Speaker Velnix. When disputes arise between species, we resolve them through controlled conflicts, limited engagements with predetermined outcomes. It prevents the chaos and destruction of total war. Ambassador Park tried to process this information. You're saying the Council fights wars on purpose. Not wars, corrected Zilmoth. Structured competitions. Each side commits a certain number of ships and soldiers. The conflict continues until one side reaches the agreed-upon loss threshold. The winner gains the disputed territory or resources. Everyone understands the rules, and casualties are kept to acceptable levels. The human delegation exchanged glances. This was nothing like what they had expected. These weren't peace talks. They were recruitment meetings. Veltar Nexus gestured to the display, which now showed human military vessels. Your species shows promise in combat. Your ships are crude but functional. Your soldiers appear brave, if untrained by our standards. You will provide troops for our next structured engagement against the Outer Rim Rebellion. What if we refuse? Asked Ambassador Park. The chamber fell silent. The three council leaders looked at each other, then at the human delegation. When Veltar Nexus spoke again, his voice carried a new edge. Refusal is not an option for probationary species. You asked to join our community. This is how membership works. You contribute to our stability, and we allow you to exist in our galaxy. Colonel Kim's hand moved toward his weapon. But Ambassador Park caught his eye and shook her head slightly. They were outnumbered by millions to one. This was not the time or place for a fight. Communications Officer Yoon Ji-woo had remained with the ship, monitoring all transmissions as ordered. As the meeting continued, she picked up a coded signal from deep space. Her translation software couldn't decode it completely, but certain words came through clearly. Colony names, human colony names, New Sol, status, offline, Taejon Station, status, offline, Gang 1 Mining World, status, offline. Her blood ran, cold. 3 of humanity's frontier colonies had gone silent, and she was picking up alien communications about them. She activated the emergency beacon that would alert Captain Lee on the station. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Park was trying to negotiate better terms for humanity's membership. The aliens listened with what seemed like patience, but their responses made it clear that humans would be junior partners at best, servants at worst. We need time to consider your offer, she said finally. Time is something probationary species rarely have, replied Veltar Nexus. But we are generous. You have 7 of your days to accept our terms. After that, the offer becomes significantly less favorable. The humans were escorted back to their ship in silence. As soon as the airlock sealed, Captain Lee grabbed Ambassador Park's arm. "We need to talk. Now." In the ship's briefing room, Communications Officer Yoon Ji-woo played back the intercepted transmissions. The coded messages were clear enough. 3 human colonies had disappeared, and the aliens were discussing it like a routine operation. Dr. Choi looked up from her notes. "The technology I saw on that station, the detailed knowledge they have of our space, the way they talked about probationary species like we're not the first ones they've done this to." Colonel Kim slammed his fist on the table. "It's a trap. This whole thing is a trap. They've been planning this for years." Ambassador Park stared at the star charts showing their missing colonies. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Captain Lee was already moving toward the bridge. "First, we get out of here. Then we warn Earth. If they want to play games with humanity, they're about to learn why that's a very bad idea." Admiral Han Seojun stared at the empty space where New Seoul should have been. The probe ship's cameras showed nothing but debris floating in the darkness. Twisted metal that had once been homes, schools, and factories drifted past the sensors. Like mechanical snow. "How many people lived there?" asked Captain Bae Jinwook, his voice barely above a whisper. 2,300,000. replied intelligence analyst Song Minji from her station, including my sister and her family. The bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship fell silent. Everyone knew someone on the missing colonies. New Seoul had been humanity's pride, a beautiful world with crystal cities and floating gardens. Taejon Station had housed the best scientists and engineers. Gangwon Mining World supported 500,000 miners and their families. Now they were all gone. Admiral Han pulled up the reports from the other probe ships. Taejon Station's wreckage showed signs of advanced energy weapons. The metal had been melted and reformed into strange shapes. Whatever had attacked them used technology far beyond human understanding. Gangwon Mining World was the worst. The planet's surface had been stripped down to the bedrock. Every trace of human presence had been erased. Even the natural resources were gone, leaving behind a dead rock floating in space. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the UES Defiance," reported Communications Officer Park Hye-jin. "Ambassador Park is requesting immediate conference with Earth Defense Command." The hologram of Ambassador Park Gina appeared in the center of the bridge. Her diplomatic calm had cracked, replaced by barely controlled fury. "Admiral, you need to know what we learned at Nexus Prime. This wasn't random. The Galactic Council planned this." Admiral Han listened as she described the meeting with the alien leaders. The probationary membership, the demand for resources, and soldiers, the casual way they talked about controlling humanity's future. When she finished, the bridge crew exchanged dark looks. "They've done this before," said Dr. Nam Suman, the fleet's chief scientist. She had been studying the alien technology found in the debris. "I count 17 different types of metal alloys in this wreckage, 17 different species, all with similar destruction patterns." Song Minji pulled up her analysis on the main screen. "I've been tracking alien communications for the past week. The pattern is clear. They monitor developing species for decades, learning everything about their technology and military capabilities. When the species gets too advanced, they invite them to join the council." "And if they refuse?" asked Admiral Han. "They don't get the chance to refuse," replied Song Minji. "The council harvests their worlds, takes their people as slaves, and strips their planets of resources. They call it evolutionary selection." Captain Bae Jinwook studied the tactical data. 3 simultaneous attacks on our most distant colonies. They wanted to test our response time and military capabilities. We're being studied like lab rats. Admiral Han walked to the viewing window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 2 million humans were either dead or enslaved. The aliens thought they could do this to Earth because humanity was young and weak. They had made a terrible mistake. "Get me a secure line to Earth Defense Council," he ordered. "All channels, Maximum encryption. The Earth Defense Council met in an emergency session deep beneath the Swiss mountains. President Kim Nari listened to Admiral Han's report with growing anger. Around the table sat the leaders of every major nation, unified for the first time in human history by a common threat. "They think we're primitives," said Defense Minister Lee Soo-yun. "They've been watching us fight each other for decades, thinking they understand how humans wage war." General Kwon Dong-hae spread tactical charts across the table. "They understand our current technology, but they don't understand our potential. Every human conflict for the past 1,000 years has driven innovation. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome." President Kim Nari looked at the faces around the table. Chinese, American, Russian, Indian, Brazilian, African leaders all nodded in agreement. The aliens had done something no human politician ever could. They had united Earth's military powers against a common enemy. "What are our options?" she asked. "We could try to negotiate," suggested Foreign Minister Park Chang-min. "Maybe offer them something else instead of our colonies." General Kwon shook his head. "You don't negotiate with predators. You kill them before they kill you." Dr. Nam Sumin activated a holographic display showing the alien fleet positions. "I've analyzed the technology from the debris fields. Their ships are powerful, but designed for their style of civilized warfare. Limited engagement rules, predetermined outcomes, minimal casualties." "What does that mean for us?" asked President Kim. "It means they've never faced an enemy that fights to win," replied General Kwon. "Their whole military doctrine is based on controlled conflicts. They don't know how to handle total war." Intelligence analyst Song Minji had been quiet during most of the meeting, working on her computer. Now she looked up with a grim expression. "I've decoded more of their communications. The Galactic Council has destroyed 17 other species using this same method. They keep records of each conquest, like trophies." She displayed images on the main screen. 17 different planets, 17 different species, all reduced to empty worlds and debris fields. Some of the civilizations had been more advanced than current humanity. All had been consumed by the Council's machine. "How long do we have?" asked President Kim. Admiral Han consulted his tactical reports. "Based on their fleet movements, I estimate 6 months before they can mount a full invasion of Earth. They're being cautious because our response to the colony attacks wasn't what they expected." "What did they expect?" asked Defense Minister Lee. "Panic," replied General Kwon. "Surrender. A desperate plea for mercy." Instead, we pulled back our outer colonies and started preparing for war. That confused them. President Kim stood up, looking at each leader in turn. "The Galactic Council thinks they can harvest humanity like they did those other species. They think we'll follow their rules of civilized warfare." She paused, letting her words sink in. "They're about to learn why humans don't fight fair." The vote was unanimous. Earth formally rejected the Galactic Council's authority and declared the destruction of the 3 colonies an act of war. Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Park received the message from Earth. She smiled for the first time since arriving at the alien station. The Council had invited humanity to join their civilized galaxy. Instead, they were about to meet Earth's uncivilized response. She requested another meeting with the Galactic Council leaders. This time, she wouldn't be asking for membership. She would be delivering humanity's declaration of war. Veltar Nexus received the human ambassador with amusement. "Have your people reconsidered our generous offer?" Ambassador Park stood straight and spoke in a clear, firm voice. "The United Earth government rejects your authority over human space. We demand the immediate return of all human captives and compensation for the destroyed colonies." The alien leaders looked at each other and began making sounds that passed for laughter among their species. "Demands?" said War Leader Kethdar. "You are in no position to make demands, little human. Furthermore," continued Ambassador Park, ignoring the interruption, Earth hereby declares war on the Galactic Council for crimes against humanity. The laughter stopped. The massive chamber fell silent. In 50,000 years of Council history, no probationary species had ever declared war on the established galactic order. Veltar Nexus leaned forward on his throne. You cannot be serious. Your entire species has 63 worlds and a handful of primitive ships. We control millions of systems and have armies beyond your comprehension. Ambassador Park smiled, and for the first time, the aliens saw something in human eyes that they didn't recognize. It wasn't fear or desperation. It was anticipation. You destroyed our colonies to test our response, she said. Consider this our response. Humanity doesn't surrender, and we don't follow your rules. You wanted to see what humans are capable of when threatened. She turned and began walking toward the exit. You're about to find out. As the human delegation left Nexus Prime, War, Leader Kethdar turned to his fellow council members. Perhaps we should increase the fleet presence around human space. Veltar Nexus waved a dismissive hand. Send the standard punishment force. 200 ships should be more than enough to destroy their pathetic fleet and force their surrender. Prime Speaker Xyle Moth activated his tactical display. I recommend caution. The human response patterns don't match any of the previous 17 species. Because they're more primitive, replied Veltar Nexus. They don't understand the futility of resistance. Once we destroy a few of their worlds, they'll beg for mercy like all the others. None of the council leaders understood the message that Communications Officer Yoon Ji-woo had transmitted to Earth before the human delegation left the station. It was a single word in an ancient human language that the aliens had never bothered to learn. Sparta. General Kwon Dong-hae walked through the shipyards orbiting Earth, watching thousands of workers convert civilian vessels into weapons of war. Cargo ships were being fitted with missile pods. Passenger liners received armor plating and gun turrets. Even small transport shuttles were being equipped with suicide charges. How many ships will we have ready when they arrive? Asked Captain Oh Hyun-woo, the newly appointed commander of the Seoul Defense Fleet. Every ship humanity has ever built, replied General Kwon. Freighters, research vessels, mining barges, colony ships. If it can fly and carry a weapon, it's part of our fleet. Dr. Nam Suman emerged from the research facility on Luna Base, carrying data tablets filled with new weapon designs. We've reverse-engineered their energy weapons from the debris at New Seoul. Our versions are cruder but more powerful. We also have something they don't expect. She activated a holographic display showing a new missile design. Nuclear warheads with gravitational guidance systems. They're used to energy shields that deflect beam weapons. These will punch right through. Captain O studied the tactical data. Earth's fleet would number nearly 3,000 ships when the aliens arrived. Most were converted civilian vessels with minimal armor and weapons. Against the Council's advanced warships, it should have been a hopeless fight. But humans had been fighting hopeless battles for thousands of years. What's our strategy? Asked Captain O. General Kwon smiled grimly. Simple. They expect us to meet them in formation and fight according to their rules. Instead, we're going to show them how humans really fight. The Galactic Council's punishment fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system 6 months later, just as intelligence had predicted. War Commander Thexvol of the Velthari commanded 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Each vessel was larger than Earth's biggest battleship, equipped with energy shields and weapons that could destroy planets. Scan the system, ordered Thexvol from his command throne. I want to know the exact position of every human ship. Sir, we're detecting massive fleet formations around the third planet, reported his tactical officer. Approximately 3,000 vessels, but most appear to be civilian ships. Thexvol examined the sensor data with amusement. The humans had gathered their entire space fleet to make one last, desperate stand. It was almost touching in its futility. Signal the human fleet, he commanded. Inform them that surrender is still possible. If they power down their weapons and submit to Council authority, we will spare their homeworld. The response came back in less than a minute. It was a single word that the translation computers struggled to interpret. No. Very well, said Thexvol. Begin the punishment engagement. Follow standard protocol. Target their military vessels first. Avoid unnecessary damage to their infrastructure. We want the planet intact for harvesting. The Council fleet moved into attack formation, their ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns that had intimidated enemies for millennia. They advanced slowly, confident in their overwhelming technological superiority. Captain Oh Hyun-woo watched the alien formation from his command ship hiding behind one of Jupiter's moons. They're doing exactly what we expected, moving in perfect formation following their standard engagement protocols. Pilot Kang Yuna checked her fighter squadron's status. All strike teams report ready. We've got suicide drones positioned throughout the asteroid belt. Remember, said Captain O, we don't fight to win battles. We fight to destroy enemies. There's a difference. The first surprise came when the human fleet didn't advance to meet the aliens. Instead, thousands of small ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. They had been concealed in asteroid fields, behind moons, even in the shadow of the sun itself. What kind of formation is this? Demanded Thexvol, studying the chaotic swarm of human vessels surrounding his fleet. It's not a formation, sir, replied his tactical officer. They appear to be attacking from all directions simultaneously. The second surprise was the human weapons. Instead of the limited energy beams used in civilized warfare, the humans fired primitive but devastating kinetic missiles. Nuclear warheads detonated against energy shields that weren't designed to stop physical projectiles. Impossible, muttered Thexvol as his sensors showed 3 of his ships already damaged. Those are nuclear weapons. Civilized species don't use nuclear weapons in space combat. Sir, more contacts approaching from the asteroid belt, reported his officer. They appear to be unmanned vessels on collision courses. Tactical Coordinator Shin Jun-hyuk watched from Earth's command center as the first wave of suicide drones struck the alien fleet. The simple concept had never occurred to the Council species. In their civilized warfare, ships were valuable assets to be preserved. Humans treated ships like ammunition to be expended. Direct hits on 7 enemy vessels, he reported. Their shields can't stop kinetic impact at those speeds. The third surprise was the human pilots. Kang Yuna led her fighter squadron through the alien formation, targeting command bridges and weapon systems instead of engaging in honorable combat. Her pilots ignored every rule of civilized warfare, striking at weak points and fleeing before the aliens could respond. They're not fighting, observed the alien tactical officer. They're just destroying our ships and running away. It's dishonorable, replied Thexvol, but his voice carried uncertainty. His perfect formation was breaking apart under the chaotic human assault. The fourth surprise was the human strategy. Instead of trying to defeat the alien fleet in battle, they focused on making it impossible for the aliens to complete their mission. Every ship that approached Earth met swarms of suicide drones. Every attempt to establish orbital bombardment position triggered nuclear missile strikes from hidden human bases. Captain Moon Soo-young commanded the defense of Earth's orbital installations. Her ships were badly outgunned, but they had one advantage the aliens didn't understand. They were fighting for their home. Target the alien flagship, she ordered. All remaining nuclear missiles full spread. Ma'am, that will leave us defenseless, warned her tactical officer. We're already defenseless, replied Captain Moon. But we can make sure they remember this fight. The barrage of nuclear warheads overwhelmed the alien flagship's shields. Thexvol watched in horror as his command ship began to break apart around him. Signal the fleet, he gasped. All ships, withdraw from human space immediately. Sir, we haven't completed the punishment engagement, protested his officer. Look around you, replied Thexvol, gesturing at the burning wreckage of his once mighty fleet. We've lost over half our ships to a species that builds weapons out of cargo containers and scrap metal. This isn't civilized warfare. This is madness. The surviving alien ships, fled toward the edge of the solar system, leaving behind the wreckage of the most powerful fleet the Galactic Council had ever assembled. Of the 200 ships that had arrived to punish humanity, only 12 escaped to carry news of the defeat back to Nexus Prime. On Earth, the celebration was brief. General Quan knew this was just the beginning. "How many ships did we lose?" he asked Captain O. "Nearly 2,000, came the reply. "But we proved something important today." "What's that?" "That humans don't fight fair, and we don't surrender." Captain O looked at the tactical display showing the retreating alien fleet. They came here expecting to harvest a primitive species. Instead, they learned what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Dr. Nam Suman was already working on plans for the next phase. The aliens would return with larger fleets and better tactics. But now they knew what they were facing, and humans had time to prepare. "The Council thinks this was just a lucky victory," she said. "They still don't understand what makes humans different." "What makes us different?" asked General Quan. "Every other species they conquered fought to survive," replied Dr. Nam. "Humans fight to win." The message transmitted to every human colony and outpost was simple. Earth had survived the first alien attack. The war was just beginning, but humanity had shown the galaxy something it had never seen before. They had shown them what happened when predators tried to hunt the most dangerous species in the universe. The species that had crawled out of caves, with stone tools and conquered their entire planet in 10,000 years. The species that had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and their own weapons of mass destruction. The species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Admiral Lim Chae-young stood in the war room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, studying holographic maps of Galactic Council territory. 3 months had passed since humanity's victory at Sol, and now it was time to show the aliens what human revenge looked like. "Target analysis complete," reported Strategic Planner An Mingyu. "We've identified 47 industrial worlds, 23 major shipyards, and 15 core supply depots across Council space." "What about their military bases?" asked Commander Park Woo-jin, who would lead the first strike force. "We're not targeting their military," replied Admiral Lim. "Military targets can be rebuilt quickly. We're going after their ability to make war at all." The strategy was simple but brutal. Instead of fighting the Council's fleets ship to ship, humanity would destroy the infrastructure that supported those fleets. Without fuel, ammunition, and replacement parts, even the most advanced warships became floating scrap metal. Dr. Nam Suman had spent weeks studying captured alien technology. Their entire civilization depends on interconnected systems. They share resources across thousands of worlds through their hyperspace network. If we cut those connections, their empire will collapse from within. Specialist Jeon Haeun looked up from her computer terminal. "I've mapped their communication network. It's incredibly advanced, but also incredibly fragile. They've never had to defend against the kind of cyber attacks humans developed fighting each other." "Show me," said Admiral Lim. The hologram displayed the Council's vast communication network, connecting millions of worlds through quantum relays and hyperspace transmitters. It was a work of art, built over thousands of years of peaceful cooperation. "It's beautiful," admitted Commander Park, "and completely unprotected. They never imagined anyone would attack civilian infrastructure. They're about to learn why that was a mistake," replied Admiral Lim. The first human strike hit the Velthari industrial world of Keth Prime. Commander Park led 50 ships through hyperspace, arriving before the planet's defense grid could activate. Instead of attacking military targets, the human fleet systematically destroyed every factory, refinery, and manufacturing plant on the surface. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from the planetary government," reported his communications. "Officer." "Ignored," replied Commander Park. "Continue the bombardment. I want this world incapable of producing so much as a bolt for the next 100 years." The attack lasted 6 hours. When the human fleet departed, Keth Prime was a burning wasteland. The planet's 8 billion inhabitants were alive but homeless, their industrial civilization reduced to rubble. Similar attacks struck across Council territory. Captain Moon Soo-young led the assault on the Zephyrian shipyards at Nexar Station, using nuclear missiles to turn the massive construction facilities into radioactive debris. Admiral Seo Ji-hoon targeted the hyperspace relay network, systematically destroying the communication nodes that held the Council's empire together. The aliens' response was exactly what humanity expected. They sent their remaining fleets to defend military targets while ignoring the systematic destruction of their civilian infrastructure. "They still don't understand," observed strategic planner An as he watched the tactical reports. "They're fighting to preserve their military honor. We're fighting to destroy their ability to exist as a civilization." Specialist John's Cyber Warfare Division struck next. Using techniques developed from centuries of human electronic warfare, they infiltrated the Council's computer networks. Banking systems crashed, transportation grids failed, and communication between worlds became impossible. "It's too easy," reported Jian. "Their security systems are designed to prevent accidents, not attacks. They've never experienced true cyber warfare." Field Commander Lee Damon led the ground assault on Velthari Supply Depot Gamma 7. His Marines moved through the facility like ghosts, planting charges and destroying stockpiles of ammunition and spare parts. When the Velthari garrison finally responded, they found nothing but empty warehouses and smoking craters. "Any casualties?" asked Admiral Lim when the report came in. "3 wounded, none killed," replied Commander Lee. "The aliens didn't even try to stop us. They evacuated their personnel as soon as they realized we weren't targeting civilians." This was the aspect of human warfare that confused the Council most. Earth's forces were utterly ruthless in destroying infrastructure, but showed unexpected restraint when it came to killing non-combatants. They would glass entire industrial complexes while allowing civilian populations to evacuate safely. The Zephyrian homeworld sent a desperate message to Earth after Captain Moon's forces demonstrated their ability to destroy cities from orbit. The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, a public plea for mercy. "We request immediate ceasefire," said Prime Speaker Zilmoth, his usual arrogance replaced by obvious fear. "The Zephyrian government is willing to negotiate terms for ending this conflict." Admiral Lim's response was broadcast back on the same frequencies, ensuring every world in Council space could hear it. "There will be no negotiations," she said, her voice cold as space itself. "You harvested 17 civilizations. You enslaved billions of sentient beings. You tried to do the same to humanity." She paused, letting the words sink in. "The only terms we offer are complete surrender and the dissolution of your empire." The message sent shockwaves through Council territory. No species had ever demanded the dissolution of the Galactic Council itself. The very idea was unthinkable. But the systematic destruction continued. Human strike forces appeared without warning, destroyed their targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The Council's million-year-old empire began cracking under the assault. War leader Kethdar of the Keth Mori sent his own message to Earth, offering single combat between champions to settle the dispute. It was the most honorable form of conflict. Resolution in Council culture. Admiral Lim's reply was even shorter than her previous message. "No." Strategic planner. An pulled up the damage assessment reports. Council industrial capacity is down 70%. Their hyperspace network is completely severed. Food distribution systems have collapsed on 40 worlds. "Casualties?" asked Admiral Lim. "Surprisingly low," replied An. "We estimate fewer than 50,000 dead across all our operations. Most of those were military personnel who refused to evacuate." This was perhaps the most shocking aspect of humanity's campaign. They were destroying an empire of trillions with surgical precision, targeting systems rather than people. The Council species had expected the barbaric humans to slaughter billions in their rage. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that could separate military necessity from personal vengeance. Why? Asked Dr. Nam Suman. Why are we showing them mercy when they showed none to the 17 species they destroyed? Admiral Lim looked at the star charts showing the extent of their campaign. Because we're not them. We don't destroy civilizations. For sport, we destroy military capabilities to protect ourselves and others. The final blow came when Admiral Han Seojun led a massive fleet to the Nexus Prime system. The ancient space station that had served as the Council's capital for 50,000 years found itself surrounded by 300 human warships. This is Admiral Han Seojun of the United Earth Defense Fleet, came the transmission that reached every corner of the galaxy. To all Council species, your empire is finished. Your fleets are scattered, your infrastructure is destroyed, and your ability to wage war has been eliminated. We offer you one choice. Surrender completely, release all slaves and prisoners, and submit to Earth's authority for reconstruction. Or we will finish what you started when you attacked our colonies. The silence that followed lasted for hours. Finally, a transmission came from Nexus Prime. It was Veltar Nexus himself, his proud voice now broken. The Galactic Council surrenders unconditionally to the forces of Earth. Admiral Lim closed her eyes and let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The war was over. Humanity had not only survived the Council's attempt at harvesting, but had completely dismantled their empire in less than a year. What now? Asked Strategic Planner On. Now, replied Admiral Lim, we show them how humans build peace. President Kim Nari stood before the rebuilt assembly hall on Luna Base, looking out at representatives from over 300 species. 1 year had passed since the Galactic Council's surrender, and the galaxy looked very different now. Though, old Council ruled through fear and exploitation, she said, her words translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. Today we establish something new. A true galactic community based on cooperation, not conquest. In the front rows sat the former leaders of the Galactic Council. Veltar Nexus had aged decades in the past year. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by the quiet acceptance of a broken ruler. Beside him, Prime Speaker Zilmoth worked frantically on his data tablet, helping to coordinate the massive reconstruction efforts across his former territory. War leader Kethdar had surprised everyone by becoming one of humanity's most valuable allies. His warrior culture respected strength, and Earth had proven to be the strongest force the galaxy had ever seen. Now he helped train the new Galactic Defense Fleet, teaching alien recruits human military tactics. Reconstruction Coordinator Yang Sungho gave his monthly report. Food distribution has been restored to all affected worlds. Industrial capacity is at 60% of pre-war levels and climbing. We've successfully relocated 8 million former slaves to new homeworlds. The slavery issue had been humanity's first priority after the surrender. The Council species had kept billions of beings from conquered worlds as forced laborers. President Kim had made their liberation the cornerstone of the peace agreement. How many species have we restored so far? Asked Ambassador Ryu Jinhee, who now served as Earth's representative to the reformed galactic government. 43, replied Yang. Including partial reconstructions of 12 of the 17 species, the Council believed they had completely destroyed. This had been the most shocking discovery during the reconstruction. The Council had kept genetic samples and cultural records of every species they conquered, storing them like trophies in vast underground vaults. Human scientists had used this information to help rebuild entire civilizations from the survivors, who had been scattered across the galaxy as slaves. Dr. Im Gayung looked up from her anthropological studies. The psychological recovery is slower than the physical reconstruction. Many of these species lived as slaves for generations. They're having trouble accepting that they're free. That will take time, said President Kim. We can't undo centuries of oppression overnight. The transformation of the galaxy hadn't been without challenges. Some species resented human authority, viewing Earth as just another conqueror. Others worried that humanity would eventually become as oppressive as the old council. Admiral Park Jun-ho addressed these concerns from his flagship orbiting Nexus Prime. The Galactic Defense Fleet now includes ships and crews from 90 different species. Human tactics, but shared command. We're not here to rule the galaxy. We're here to protect it. This military integration had been crucial to gaining trust from the former Council species. Human officers trained alien crews in advanced warfare techniques, while alien specialists taught humans about their technology and cultures. The result was the most effective military force the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Yu Min-hyuk led the first deep space exploration mission beyond the former Council territory. His mixed crew of humans and aliens had discovered something that changed everyone's perspective on the galactic situation. "We've found evidence of 3 other galactic empires," he reported from the edge of known space. 2 appear to be similar to the old council. The third, he paused, checking his data. The third has been expanding aggressively for the past century. They call themselves the Hegemony. The discovery had sent shockwaves through the reformed galactic community. The Galactic Council hadn't been the only predatory empire in the galaxy. There were others, and some of them were already looking toward the territory that humanity now protected. President Kim called an emergency session of the new Galactic Assembly. "The question before us is simple," she told the gathered representatives. "Do we hide behind our borders and hope the other empires ignore us? Or do we stand together and make it clear that the age of galactic predators is over?" The debate lasted for hours. Some species wanted to avoid conflict, preferring to focus on rebuilding their worlds. Others argued that humanity had proven the effectiveness of preemptive action against imperial threats. Veltar Nexus surprised everyone by speaking in favor of military action. "For 50,000 years, my people believed that civilized warfare could maintain peace. We were wrong. The humans showed us that sometimes peace requires the complete destruction of those who threaten it." The vote was close, but the Assembly agreed to authorize expansion of the Galactic Defense Fleet. If other empires wanted to continue the old ways of conquest and slavery, they would face the same fate as the Galactic Council. "This isn't about human imperialism," explained Admiral Park to his multinational officer corps. "This is about making sure no species ever again faces what those 17 civilizations faced. No one gets harvested on our watch." The first test came 6 months later when Hegemony scouts were detected near the outer colonies. Captain Yu's exploration fleet intercepted them before they could gather intelligence on the reformed galactic territory. The Hegemony commander, a reptilian being called Supreme War Master Dextool, demanded to know by what authority humans interfered with Hegemony expansion. Captain Yu's response was broadcast across all frequencies, ensuring every species in local space could hear it. "By the authority of every free species in this galaxy. You want to expand into our territory? You'll have to go through us first." The Hegemony scout fleet was given 24 hours to leave the area. When they refused, they learned what 17 other species had discovered the hard way. Humans didn't bluff and they didn't show mercy to predators. The destruction of the Hegemony scout fleet sent a clear message across the galaxy. The age of easy conquest was over. Any empire that wanted to expand through force would face the combined military might of hundreds of species united under human leadership. President Kim addressed the galaxy one final time from the memorial wall on New Sol, which had been rebuilt as a monument to all species destroyed by galactic empires. 1 year ago, the Galactic Council tried to harvest humanity like they had 17 species before us. They learned that some prey fights back. Today, we stand not as conquerors, but as protectors. The galaxy is vast enough for every species to thrive in freedom. She paused, looking at the names carved into the memorial wall. Representatives from the 43 restored species had added the names of their lost worlds and peoples. To any empire that still believes in conquest through force We offer you the same choice we gave the Galactic Council. Abandon your predatory ways and join the galactic community as equals, or face the consequences of threatening those under our protection. The message was received across the galaxy. 3 more imperial empires announced their willingness to negotiate peaceful contact with the reformed galactic community. The 4th, a machine intelligence called the Collective, began withdrawing its expansion fleets rather than risk conflict with humanity. Dr. Im Ga-young published her final report on the cultural transformation of the galaxy. The most significant change isn't political or military, she wrote. It's psychological. For the first time in galactic history, developing species don't fear contact with advanced civilizations. They know that predators will face retaliation from the galactic community. Children from dozens of species now attended integrated schools on worlds throughout human-protected space. They learned each other's languages, shared their cultures, and grew up seeing diversity as strength rather than weakness. The galaxy had learned a simple lesson that would echo through the ages. Predators survived by hunting the weak, but sometimes the prey evolved into something stronger than any predator. Sometimes the prey became the protector of all those who couldn't protect themselves. And in the depths of space, on the edge of the unknown, human exploration fleets continued their mission. They carried a message that would be heard by every species they encountered, whether friend or potential foe. The message was simple. The galaxy is under new management,